How can I find somebody else if I can't love myself enough to know when it's time to let go? Ooh, oh, oh. Where my background at? It's to be happy. Where you at? Hello. So I'm sitting in my car and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna make a video. So I'm like sitting backwards in my front seat. As you can see, my little furry wheel here. Okay, so this video, I'm going to talk about working as a tech or CNA PCT nurse's aide, all same thing, all require the same amount of schooling unless you're in a hospital setting while you're in nursing school. So there are the pros and cons to being a PCT, and I'm going to share with you. So if you work as a PCT, as a CNA, you can either do it in a hospital setting or you can work for an agency. So we're going to talk about the pros and cons for both. So when you are working for an agency, there are two types of agencies that you can work for. You can either do contract agency, which is where you sign a contract and you're working for them for a certain amount of months, weeks, whatever your contract says, and you're locked into that contract until you're done with that time span. Or there are the agencies where you can pick up shifts as you go. So you work as you please. Both of them you work as you please, but one is in a set time frame and the other is day by day. So the pros, one of the pros is you can make more money with working with agency. Some agencies pay a lot more than working for a hospital. So that can be a pro, because sometimes people, it's all about the money. If you're just trying to get by to get to your nursing career, then money can be a big plus. The other pro can be that you're not stuck in one place. So sometimes going to the same place over and over again can be municipal. You get bored, the same people bothering you, getting on your nerves, aggy, whatever the case is. So sometimes going to a different setting can kind of lighten up the mood because you're going to different places. You don't have to see the same people every day. So that can be a pro. Another pro is you definitely learn about patient care and bedside manner. When you go to these places, you are truly with the patient all day, every day. You are like their go-to person. You're doing everything for them. You're learning bed baths, whether it be actually in the bed or you're assisting them to the shower. You learn what it means to have a patient that is a 1 assist or a 2 assist or a complete. So you learn all of that while you're in agency, and you have no choice. So it's a good thing because you learn how to be in contact with people. You learn not to be afraid of people, because when you become a nurse, you're going to have to touch people. This is going to be a part of your day-to-day, career. So you learn how to talk to people, learn your people skills, your communication skills, your time management, because you're going to have patients that need more time than others. So you learn prioritization. You learn a lot of basic foundational nursing skills in agency. Another thing is you can network, because you're going to these different places. You can get a taste of what place you like better than the other, and you can start to network with people, talk, use your mouth. And then when you're done with nursing school, then you can potentially have a job lineup, whether it be for the agency or for the actual facility. So that's always a plus. Okay, and then the other thing is, obviously, you can work when you want, especially if you have the agency where you can pick up jobs whenever. That's awesome. So you don't have to be stuck to a schedule. If you're studying and you have an exam one week, then you don't have to be pressed to go into work because you're on the schedule. You can pick up as you please. So the cons that go along with picking up as you please, you don't always get chosen to be picked up. So if they already have that day filled with people that they need from agency, then, you know, your request to go on for work, you may not get it. So that can be a con, because you might have been dependent on that money to come in, money, and you might not be able to go in because they don't choose you. So that's a con. Another thing is there's inconsistency, because you never know what you're walking into. I remember one time I was working for a particular company. I won't disclose any names. And I walked on to, they were like, yeah, you got to go to B Wing today. Okay, cool. You know, I'm the newbie. All right, I'll go to B Wing. Listen, I went there, and I'm not downplaying any sort of patient, but I was not prepared for being on the floor. Every floor is going to have a certain level of acuity, meaning, you know, how much time and level the patient is going to need with the interprofessional staff, including the nursing staff. But I wasn't prepared. I was worn down because a lot of the patients needed one-on-one interaction, and they did not have enough staff to do so. So tiring days. That brings me into my next con. The patient workload can sometimes be ridiculous. At any given time, you can have, you know, between 4 patients, 5 patients, like you would as a nurse on a med-surg floor, all the way up to like 13, 20 patients. I think the max I've had so far is maybe 20 patients. And you're talking about cleaning the patient, cleaning, you know, the area of their room, and, you know, changing their bed. Some of them are feeders. It's a lot. So to have 20 patients like that, or a good majority where they're complete and you have to do everything for the patient, it can be very tiring. So, you know, you have to weigh the pros and the cons. Another thing is the pay is not consistent. The pay can be good for a certain amount of time. During COVID, when it first started, you know, jumped off January, February, March, boy, those numbers were booming. They had crisis pay. You know, in Jersey, they were paying, you know, $35 for you to be working per hour. That was like wonderful. As soon as the number started to drop a little bit, that pay dropped. Oh, so, you know, that $35 went right on down to about 20, some 18, some 14, some 12. So the pay is not consistent. It doesn't mean that once you start out with one amount, then it's going to stay there. No. Another thing is, when you're in the contract, you do stay with that pay until the contract is out. But then once that contract is out, whatever pay they're offering, that's the pay that you're going to get. And the other con is that the agencies, some of them have benefits and some of them don't have benefits. So if you're looking for benefits in the job, then that's something that you have to look into, because not all of the agencies offer benefits, because it's like a per diem. Okay, so now if you're a PCT in a hospital setting, meaning a patient care technician, CNA, nurses aide, all the same thing, the pros are that, number one, if you're in nursing school, the benefit is you just have to go through your first round of clinicals and succeed in your first quarter of classes. And then you can be a PCT on, you know, any floor. So that's a pro, because it's like you don't have to go to school twice. You do have to go to school, but you don't necessarily have to go to CNA school. So you don't have to go to CNA school, then go into nursing school, all that. No. If you're in nursing school, you complete your first quarter in clinicals, boom, you can become a CNA in a hospital setting. So that's definitely a pro, because who wants to go to school twice? Okay. Then the other thing is, if you plan on working in a hospital setting, this is great for you, because you start to get acclimated with how hospitals run things, opposed to how group home settings and agency settings work, where you're in rehab. Hospitals are, you know, a different feel for things. They have different equipment, different policies and procedures. So you can start to get a feel for that if you do this, if you work as a CNA in a hospital setting. Another thing is, they have, when you're looking for things for patients, it's a lot easier most times to find them in a hospital setting. They have plenty of stock most times, compared to when you're working for agency. A lot of times when you go to these places, you have to get reacclimated, and then half the time they don't have the things that you need to care for your patients, and it can get kind of annoying. So if you're that kind of person that likes to have the things that they need at all times for their patient, hospital setting most times have, you know, what you need. And then if not, you can kind of go to another floor, finagle what you need, or call up what you need. But with agencies, you can't, you know, quite do that. Also, you can get your foot in the door if you want to work in a hospital setting. Same thing as with the agency. You can start talking to people, networking, and then potentially you can have a job set up when you finish nursing school. Another thing is there are 12-hour shifts. So sometimes that works out better for people because you can work, you know, lesser amount of days. So as opposed to going in 4 days, you can get the kind of money that you need in just the 2 days, and then you have the rest of the, you know, week to study. There is consistent pay. You don't have to worry about your pay fluctuating. If anything, your pay is going to go up. It's not going to go down. There are benefits when you work at the hospital. There's always health benefits, dental benefits, vision benefits, and so on. So you won't have to worry about that. You learn about the hospital equipment when you're there, because sometimes there's different and more up-to-date hospital equipment. You learn about pumps a little bit more. Just the things that you will do when you work in a hospital, you get to get acclimated with them. So the cons are that with the hospital setting, the 12-hour shifts, sometimes people don't like that because you can become, you know, extremely tired. You're there for 12 hours, which is, you know, a lot out of the waking day. So sometimes going to a 12-hour shift and then having to study, or if you have kids, you know, spouse, other things going on, 12-hour shift might not be beneficial for you, especially if you work far from the job. You know, travel and distance is definitely a part of it too. So sometimes 12-hour shifts isn't for everybody. And then that's really like the only kind that I could think of. And it really just depends on you as the person. Some people like working in a hospital setting. They like the consistency, the pay, the fact that they can get benefits, but they don't like the 12-hour shifts. Some people like working at the agency because they can pick up whenever they want. I think that's the best thing that I liked about it. But I did not like the inconsistency with going to a floor and not knowing what I was walking into. You know, I'm a talker, so, you know, by nature I network. But aside from that, the not knowing if I was going to get picked up for a job the day that I anticipated getting money, I didn't like that. So if you have any questions, I'm in the Jersey area for if you have any questions in particular to New Jersey. But if you have any questions for anything else, let me know. And, you know, if you like my page, you can subscribe. You can like the video. If not, it's okay. I love everybody. All right, peace. Jam with me. Hey, where you at? Hope. Hey.